Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Thanks so much for taking some time to join me today. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always interesting to be the interviewee instead of the interviewer.
I feel like it's so much easier being the interviewer because you don't have to kind of open up about your own life.
Yeah, it's funny. Anytime I get interviewed, there is this subconscious thing in me that's like, Rachel, stop talking so the other person can talk. And then I have to consciously be like, no, this is your time to talk. So it is a bit of a strange thing to switch that. And then I think I feel like I'm talking so much, but that's the point when you're being interviewed. So.
Yes, well, welcome and thank you. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoy your podcast. So I'll make sure I link all of that in notes for everybody to have a listen to. But yes, so I'm keen to hear all about your acting journey, which I have had the benefit of listening to some of it on your podcast. But obviously there's anyone that listens to mine that may not listen to yours. We're here to chat. So tell me what got you into this crazy field of acting?
Sure. So I think my story is pretty similar to a lot of actors, which is that when I was young, I really enjoyed acting. I did the after school drama. Funnily enough, when I was young, I didn't really understand what acting was. But when I was like 10, 11, 12, any opportunity that I had at school where we were doing a play in class, or if we had to do an assignment and we could perform something, that's what I would do. And I remember when I was kind of in my early teens, my mum said, I've enrolled you in this after drama program. And I was like, why? And then it kind of clicked. Oh, I like drama. That's what that is. I don't know why I didn't put two and two together, but obviously my parents saw that was something that I enjoyed. And so drama was always just, as everyone probably was in school, the one subject that I actually cared about. And I wasn't necessarily bad at school. I was quite good at it, but I took it very seriously. So when it came to finishing high school and choosing what I was going to do after school, I guess I didn't explore any other options. I was like, what drama school am I going to go to? Or what course am I going to study in acting? So it was always just kind of a given. It was never like, oh, maybe I should do communications as well or something like that. Because, that's the general degree that you do when you don't know what you want to do. So I went and did a Bachelor of Performance at the University of Wollongong, which was quite a highly regarded theatre course at the time. And the reason that I went into theatre was that was all I had done up until that point. I hadn't done any screen, and I didn't know that they're two different things, essentially, two different styles of acting. And so I studied theatre there for 3 years, and that was a very interesting time in my life. I do talk about it on my podcast a lot. And, I'm not shaming drama schools or drama courses at all, but I learned the fundamentals, but I also learned a lot about who I wasn't and who I thought I was, but I actually wasn't. And I didn't get a lot of support from my teachers when I was in that course. And funnily enough, I think it was years later that I started to realize that the things that were said to me there weren't okay, but I had kind of trekked on anyways. Like I remember one of my teachers who I, now just disregard as a professional person, because I just, the advice that he gave people, I was like, oh, that's coming from someone who is a bit of a has-been and resents themselves for that. But he kind of sat me down and said, you're just not good enough. You're not a good enough actor. And, in hindsight, my more mature self goes, well, how are you going to help me to become the actor that I want to become? Because you're my teacher. That's your job. That's why we're here. But, being my, I don't know, 19-year-old self, I was kind of like, okay. But funnily enough, I just kept going anyways. I was like, oh, okay, no worries. That's fine. And just kept trying and kept finding things in the course that I did enjoy. And by the end of third year, I was really happy to be out of there. I just wanted to, I was just happy to be out of uni, out of the drama course. And I then had the qualification of like, okay, I've done that chunky drama school thing to put on my acting CV that, some people still kind of want to see. I think that's changing now in the industry, definitely. But so drama school was interesting.
Yeah, wow. I mean, obviously 19 is such a young age to hear something like that, to be told that you're not a good actor. How did you, obviously you've just said that you kind of just kept going and kept pushing anyway. How did you kind of rationalize that with yourself to push past that and keep motivated towards the acting goal?
I think it was just a lot of ignorance. To be honest, it wasn't a moment of like, no, fuck you. Oh, am I allowed to swear? Okay. It wasn't a moment of like, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong. It was just something in me that kind of unconsciously disregarded what he said. And I was kind of like, okay, no worries. And it did upset me. But at the same time, I knew it was what I wanted to do. And so I kind of thought, well, he's just one person. It's not the entire industry telling me this isn't for me. And it was one person. It wasn't a teacher that I absolutely loved or anything like that either. So I guess, it was just the fact of, I kind of went, well, no, I actually do want to do this. This is what makes me happy and I love acting. So I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's not the industry, it's not the whole industry that would be saying that. But I mean, what you've kind of described there, pushing past that and kind of disregarding what he said, I think is a really important skill that we all have to have, even as we kind of trying to make our way through the industry, because there are so many rejections, and sometimes not even rejections. There's just so many tumbleweeds of not knowing what has happened because of that's just the way that the industry is, which sucks so much. But to have that, I guess, to have that ability at such a young age is quite admirable.
I think as I've gotten older, it's definitely taught me that, and this is with all creatives, no matter if you're an actor or a podcaster or whatever, you kind of just need to focus on like, why are you doing it? And what are you getting out of it? And is it like lighting you up every day? And kind of like, yes, obviously, like a yes or no from a casting director is important sometimes, or a yes or no from an acting coach is important. But at the same time, those are just moments. Like your whole journey spans across however long you want it to span. And so at the very crux of it, you need to say, okay, well, why am I doing it? Is it to get a yes from, Tom McSweeney or something like that? Or is it to get a yes from an acting coach, Lisa Robertson? And I don't think it should be. I think it should be because you enjoy doing it, because you are getting something out of it, because you are discovering things about yourself, because it's lighting you up. Those are all the reasons that you should do it. And so, when we do have a lot of those moments of rejection or just kind of feeling like we're not getting there, I think it's important to just come back to the why and be like, okay, so is this doing this acting class that's not necessarily booking me jobs, but it's, me learning, is that lighting me up to my why? And if it is, great, then you're doing the thing, Yeah,
really nice way of looking at it. Is that, but you also kind of started off that saying, as you've gotten older, that's the way that you look at it. So when you came out of university, and embarked on your, decided, right, I'm going to keep going, I'm an actor now. What was your goal? What was your idea of making it at the time?
Oh, my idea was to, book a TV show or a film or something like that. Those very not deep aspirations, I guess, which is totally fine. Hindsight is a beautiful thing. And so that's why I always say, like, oh, now this is the way that I think. But I can completely acknowledge that that wasn't my thinking when I was, 21, 22, 23. And that's okay, because that was, the journey that I needed to be on to get to here. But yeah, when I left drama school, there was also this shock of, oh, there's not a lot of theatre in Australia. And that's the type of acting that I've been doing. So what am I going to do? And so I got onto Star Now and started doing short films and learning that way how to, I guess, act on screen. And I thought that there was going to be like an amazing big role that I could get from Star Now, and then that trajectory would happen. And I had this idea, which I think a lot of people do, of like, okay, well, I'm going to work on my acting career for the next few years. And like, once I'm at a point where I feel like I'm successful, then I will find the person that I want to be with, and then we'll get married, and then I'll, be still acting, and then we'll have kids and all that sort of thing. So I had this very kind of just very simple, this is how things are going to happen. But as we all know, life never happens in the way that you think it's going to. So
I mean, given that was kind of what you were thinking of when you came out of uni, what's your idea of making it now? What are you working towards?
I think it's more of the inner journey that I'm working towards. Obviously, I still have goals that, I would love to be on a TV show, and I would love to do films, but that is because I enjoy that work. I think ultimately now my goal is always to do work that has a purpose, and that purpose is usually to make others feel like they're not alone. Sorry. And yeah, I think that from, when I left uni until now, it's been this big journey of discovering my why, which is I always want people to know that whatever journey they're on is the right journey for them. And I want people to feel less alone, whether that's through, a short film or a series or a podcast episode. That's what truly lights me up is, when I get messages from people and they're like, I really needed to hear this, or this really helped me with my acting journey, or something like that, that really feels like it's aligned with what I want to do with my creative career. So like, yes, I do have those goals of like, oh, I want to do these types of projects and I want to work with these sorts of people. But at the very crux of it is that goal of like, I want to do it for this purpose. I don't want to do it so, I can say I worked with Chris Hemsworth. Not that I want to, that was just the name that popped into my head. So I think that if you do want a long career, for me, it's important to actually know why you want it, to know what the purpose of your creative passion and your creative career is, and to then pursue that rather than the things of like, oh, I want to be on a podcast or something. Why do you want to be on a podcast? Yeah.
I think it's really important that, I think you've touched on something really important around the focusing on the why you do something. I think we definitely live in a world at the moment where everybody just sees everything on social media and instant fame and fortune and money and riches, and there's just like instant celebrity. That's usually the goal or the vision of people starting out or wanting to make it. And obviously, I mean, as an actor, who wouldn't love to reach those kind of heights. But I think it's such a small percentage of people that reach that that kind of acclaim, that it's an unhealthy goal. If it's not bringing you joy, then it's not, why are you still doing it? So I think
definitely. And I think the other important thing is like, I don't think it's unhealthy to have big goals. Like, as you said, it would be very nice to be paid lots of money to do the thing that you love, and for people to be like, wow, you're my inspiration. But at the same time, if you do have big goals, if you do have those big goals, the other thing that I think is super important to concentrate on is that you actually think that you can achieve them and that you're worthy of them, not from an egotistical perspective and like, I'm amazing. Like, it's just that, if someone else has achieved what you're able to, if someone has achieved what you're wanting to achieve, then it is possible. Yes. So I think it's important to work on actually believing that it could be possible for you if you have the right intentions.
Definitely. Do you do a lot of work kind of in yourself to keep grounded and motivated in that way?
Yes. A lot. And that's been a lot of my journey in the past few years, especially, which is funnily enough, when I've felt the most successful as a creative, is I've spent a lot of time by myself looking at the beliefs that I hold, not just around me as a creative, but me as a person, and realizing that they have come from somewhere that's not the truth. And so rewiring my brain to be like, no, that's not us. That's not who we are. We need to find out exactly who we are as a person. And there are many tools which you can use to do that. I think meditation was a really big one for me starting out. There are lots of great guided meditations. And I know initially a lot of people are like, meditating's not for me. But my partner, he used to say that. He was like, I can't sit still for like 10 to 20 minutes. And I hate when they're guided. I hate the person's voice. But he recently just got into Wim Hof meditation, which is a different sort of meditation. And he now notices when he doesn't meditate how he feels not grounded in himself on the daily. So like, I know that doesn't have anything to do with being a creative, but in order to be a creative, you first need to be a whole person. So I think working on yourself outside of your creative career and outside of being a creative is really important. The other thing that I would do is keep a journal about different things, keep a journal about how I would feel about different things. And then one thing that really works for me is I write as if the thing has happened. So say an example would be you're writing as if you have booked that film that you want to be in. And so you're writing, I am so happy to be here on set today. We're filming this scene. It's great. My scene partner is amazing. I feel like I am on the ball with my acting skills today. The makeup artist did my makeup so well. I love it. Blah, 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 whatever. You can literally write whatever. And I think allowing myself to daydream about those things and allowing myself to go there without the thing of like, oh, what if it doesn't happen? Like, fuck that off. Don't worry about that. This is your journal. You can write whatever you want. So funnily enough, those things on a consistent basis really helped me to work on myself and to now hold the mindset of like, anything can happen in any aspect of your life, whether that be job or love life or family or anything like that. Anything can happen. And so why not think that the best thing could happen?
Wow. I've just got visions of like in 100 years' time when someone finds your journals, Your family, your journals. But I love that. I really love the idea of writing as if. I think
Yeah.
I might give it a go.
It's very interesting. It's such a, I know it sounds like such a simple thing, and you're like, how is this working on yourself? But I think that sometimes when we're in our heads and we're thinking about the things that we want, we tend to sometimes have an air of like, oh, but that might not happen, so I shouldn't allow myself to go too deep in that. I think giving yourself like, okay, so for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to allow myself to just write down the most elaborate, most awesome dream that could happen to me as if it's happening now, and just see how that feels. And I think with consistent work, because you are, putting out that energy of allowing yourself to feel these amazing emotions of happiness and joy and just loving what you're doing in those journaling moments, things tend to start happening for you in reality, which is very strange. If you don't believe me, try it and just see what happens. Like, what have you got to lose?
There's so much about kind of affirmations and whatnot out there. And I think I'm probably a bit of a non-believer myself. And I think I tried to do the affirmation stuff, and like I'm a bit impatient when it doesn't happen immediately. I'm like, well, this clearly isn't working.
Yeah. I give up.
I've been going to the gym for a week. Why don't I have a six-pack? Clearly there's
That's how it works.
So you talked a little bit there about constant work. I'm keen to, are you working constantly at the moment from an acting perspective? Sorry, let me rephrase that. Not working as in like you're hired as an actor constantly. Are you working on your craft, like acting gym regularly to keep yourself in the game?
This is a great question because I have a lot to say on it.
Oh, we've got a lot of time to listen.
So this year has been very interesting for me as an actor because it's been probably, in the weirdest of ways, my quietest year, but also the year that I have kind of in my mind leveled up a little bit. Okay. So at the start of the year, around March, I dropped my agent because I'm a real firm believer in, if something doesn't feel aligned with you, if something is stressing you out and it just doesn't feel right, let it go. And that's kind of how I was feeling with the agent that I was with at the time. And nothing against her. It was just that, like, I have a way that I like working and she doesn't work in that way. And so I went, no, I'm going to freelance. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And I didn't die. So that's good. But so yeah, I dropped my agent. And then kind of this year, because of lockdown and everything, and I went through a very rough time with my job that pays the bills, and I ended up quitting it. So there wasn't a lot of space and mental space and time for my acting, which is totally fine. And it definitely taught me that there are times in which you need to prioritize other things in your life. So that's why it was a bit of a quiet year for me, because I had to prioritize my mental health, working out my work situation, also podcasting. So that also takes time. And then also finding a coach that I felt like I aligned with. So funnily enough, in the last week, someone shared a previous episode of my podcast. And she shared one that I'd done with my old coach, Ben Matthews, who is amazing. And I love him so much. And it was on, and it was on mindset and how mindset is kind of fundamental to your success. And I was like, oh, we recorded this nearly 2 years ago. I'm going to listen to see how my interview style has changed. And so I listened back to the episode, and funnily enough, it was kind of exactly what I needed to hear in this moment, was that, it's not necessarily going to all of these castings and getting all of these auditions, which is going to bring your success. It's actually putting in the time with an acting coach or going to those classes purely for the fact of, continuously working without the idea that like, oh, if this coach thinks I'm amazing, they're going to suggest me to this agent or to this casting director, or if I do this class with this person, then someone's going to see me and it's going to be my big break. Like, put that to the side and just get back to doing the work each week. And it kind of snapped me out of my year-long silence, and I went, I need to start doing the work again. So, and it's funny, when you do a podcast that's around the creative industry, no one really knows no one would have known that I would have taken most of this year off of acting classes and acting. But I did. And I actually have a coaching session booked in next week. So I'm like, no, I'm now in a position mentally that I do need to start doing that work again. And I feel like I can. Whereas like in the height of lockdown in Sydney, if you had told me, oh, you should do this acting class, I probably would have fallen apart. Like, I was just not doing well. And that's okay. You don't have to continuously do these classes because we hear like, oh, you need to do the work in order to get to where you want to be. You also need to do the work on yourself. And so that's more what my year has been. And now, I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, I want to start doing that work again. So I'm very excited. But at the same time, funnily enough, for the whole year, I did kind of feel like I was not doing a lot, whilst I can't talk too much about it. So this is a bit of a tease, but I have a series in development with a production company down in Melbourne. And we've been developing that over the past year. And so it was funny that I felt like, I just feel like I haven't done anything to do with acting this year whilst having all of these meetings about my series. And so it's funny, like when you're in it and not looking at the bigger picture, sometimes you can feel like you're not doing the work. When I was doing little things, I just wasn't putting in the acting class work.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sorry, there was so much good stuff.
I'm so sorry, there was so much that just like...
There was so much there. I'm like, okay, where do I go first? Well, we were talking about, I'll start with the fact that we were talking about kind of keeping up with the acting stuff. And I think you're definitely not the only person that over the last year have probably taken a little bit of a break. And it's really, I guess it's a hard choice as an actor to decide to put your mental health first over trying to keeping on within the acting game, because there are so many conflicting messages out there, like you have to be working on it full time, 100%, no other work, blah, 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 if you really want to make it as an actor. And then we can see all of our friends on social media doing stuff, either booking jobs or constantly doing self-tapes or doing acting class, and it'll make us feel guilty about not doing something. But then obviously, if you are working on yourself, that's so important. But there's obviously, as you've just said, other little things that you're doing that all kind of fits into your career in the long term. I'll get to the career bit in a minute, but I'm interested to hear about dropping your agent and how you kind of came to that decision. I think definitely a lot of us, I think, feel that it's having an agent is like the be all and end all of us actually getting work. I mean, I've been with my agent for nearly 3 years now, and I know damn well that having an agent is not the be all and end all of getting work. So kind of come to that decision, and what has that meant for you? What does being a freelancer mean now for you, I guess, to get work?
So there's a few different aspects that kind of make up the decision, but I guess one is, incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful at the amazing people that I interview on my podcast. And I don't take that for granted at all. And what it has helped me do is that I've been able to have one-on-one conversations with people that I admire in the industry. And I've been able to kind of dissect who they are as a person and the energy and the vibe that they're putting out as the person having done the work that they've done. And I kind of realized that when you get to a certain stage in the industry, there is so little kind of care for the smaller things, you know, like leaving an agent. If you were to ask someone like Noni Hazelhurst, you know, like, what do you think about leaving your agent and freelancing? She'd be like, do it. Like, who cares? You know, nothing bad is going to happen to you. You're not going to start from the bottom again. So there's always this air around the people that I interview, which is just, they're so set in who they are as people. And these kind of smaller decisions that you tend to worry about when you're at this stage in your career just don't matter to them, mostly because they don't have to deal with them. But also, like, when they're talking about their journey, it's kind of the moments where they just realize, you know, like, I'm just going to let it flow and whatever happens, happens. And generally, those moments are what leads to them getting to where they are now. So with that in mind, and like I've said, you know, I'm very much like a more spiritual person with the affirmations and the journaling and the meditation, blah, blah, blah. As I said before, if something doesn't feel like it's aligning with me, and if something is causing me a lot of stress, I won't come to the decision immediately, but it will definitely be something that I will think on for a while. And I will just go, you know what? It's actually causing me more grief in my life and in my career to be staying in this situation. So I need to leave. And it's the same with, like, say you're dating someone and you're like, oh, like I like this person, but they're causing me grief. I don't feel like I'm being my best self with them. And so, you know, some people stay in those relationships and some people don't, and they kind of find themselves, and then they end up finding someone new and hopefully someone that is better suited to them and brings out the best in them. So it's a similar story to that with agents. And I kind of went, well, I feel like being with this agent and having that constant stress of like, did you send that email? How are you pitching me? Are you on the same page as me? It made me put out a version of myself that wasn't 100% true to who I am and wasn't my best self. And so I had two options. I could either stay with that agent and be like, I have an agent, and look for other agents while still being with that agent. Or I could just go, you know what? I can't deal with this stress, and just leave and freelance and work it out from there. And then, you know, search for other agents. And ultimately, I did stay with that agent and I looked at other agents, but I truly felt like me approaching other agents while still being in a situation that wasn't serving me and wasn't making me be my best self, I didn't attract any of the ones that I wanted because I was just not being true to myself. And so I thought, okay, well, I do need to leave and freelance and see what is the worst thing that could happen if I freelance. And I already had this deal with the Melbourne production company with my series. So in that way, I was kind of like, well, if all else fails, I've still got that. And so, yeah, I left that agent. And funnily enough, when you're in those situations and the way that people react is always very telling of like who they truly are as a person. And I remember when I left that agent, she said to me, like, I'm very disappointed because you're going to find it really hard to find an agent that will have a good relationship with actors. And I was like, I read that and I was like, no, I'm not. Why do you think that? And I was like, we didn't have a good relationship. So it's that kind of knee-jerk reactionary response, which tells me, oh, good, I made the right decision. I don't want to be with an agent who says to me, like, you'll never find better than me. Yes, I will, you know? So it's those situations in which they make me go, okay, I made the right decision. And it's not something that, you know, I thought one week, I think I'm going to leave, and then the next week I did. I think I thought about it for about 6 months. So it was a really long process.
What does being a freelancer mean? Because I mean, obviously, I've got a lot of friends that that either don't have agents or are looking for an agent, but obviously still want to be working. Is there, you do a lot more contacting casting directors, etc., directly yourself now, or how does it work as a freelancer?
So, I mean, with Casting Networks, which is a website that if you are freelancing or with an agent, you have to be on. If you are freelancing and you're not on that website, get on that website, because that is essentially the main board that they put all of the auditions on. So when you're freelancing, you get emails saying this audition suits you. Do you want to apply for yourself? So that's one way, which a lot of actors that with agents don't know, because your agent gets those emails. So there's that.
This is for commercials and films and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. And as I said at the beginning of my story, you know, there is Star Now, which I think people discredit as a website where, you know, there's just student films and stuff like that. But now it's building up to be a website where there is some great ad auditions on it, or there is some small budget feature films or short films, that sort of thing. I've certainly used it a few times to cast projects that I've produced. And have gotten some great actors from it. So don't discredit Star Now as a source to at least network and to apply for smaller things. And in saying that, networking is quite important, especially if you're freelancing, because you want to meet people who will potentially want to work with you. But I always have this thing about networking that when you tell someone to network, they're like, okay, I just need to become fake friends with people that are higher up in the industry to me, which is not the case. I think networking should be looked at as, who are the creatives in my immediate circle that I really feel like I vibe with and align with, and what can we do together? So, and also, you know, it is important as a freelancer and as an actor to be doing those acting classes, to be working in that way as well. I really love, so there's a girl, Emily Joy, who I've had on my podcast previously as well. She's an amazing coach. And I really love the way that she coaches, because she's now coaching me through, okay, what can we do to get you a new agent? You know, so if you are freelancing and you are looking to potentially book with a new agent, then I would highly recommend seeking out coaches that do one-on-one sessions, and then ask them what to do, because they're going to have a wealth of knowledge. And Emily certainly does. She knows how she ended up booking the agent that she absolutely wanted to be signed with, because of the things that she was implementing. And she can talk you through what she did, and she can say, okay, where are you at? And what can we do in order to get you to here? So I don't think you necessarily as a freelancer have to go it alone and figure it out yourself. And I certainly don't. I think, yeah, you can implement those people who know the information better than you, and yes, you're going to pay them and that's fine, but it's also kind of a relief to be like, okay, someone's just actually going to tell me like I need to do A, B, and C, and then you can go away and do that. So I think, yeah, freelancing can be great because it can teach you what you actually want out of your career and out of being with an agent. I know that a lot of actors are with agents that they probably don't necessarily want to be with, and that's totally fine. But I think it's important, if you want this to be a lifelong career, what do you want your agent to be? You know, what are the attributes of the agent that you need in order to feel supported and to feel like they're part of your team? And then go looking for that. Don't go, I want to be with Morrissey Management because they rep all of the famous people. Why do you want to be with Morrissey? Like, what part about Mark or Michael lights you up and is, you know, someone that you want to be in a team with, essentially? So yeah, I think that's really important. And I know that freelancing, the idea can be scary, but I think if we can look at it as an opportunity to actually understand what you want and then to go out and seek that, that's amazing. Because when we're with an agent sometimes, and when we're signed with them, I think we can get sometimes a bit too comfortable, or we don't actually know what we want, or the frustration of like, oh, they're really annoying that they don't send emails or they don't respond to me very much. But you kind of don't think that you could have more than that. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
It did, very much so. And on career-wise, obviously, you've spoken a little bit now about your series that you're working on. You obviously released the Nobody Likes Camping this year.
Yes.
So do you see yourself kind of going in that multifaceted career of writer, producer, as well, a director, actor? Tell me a bit about where you think you're going.
I guess so. The funniest thing is whenever someone is like, oh, you're a writer, my initial response is like, no, but I am. That's the thing. I've just never really viewed myself as that. And I think because I write out of necessity of wanting to do a project like A, B, or C, and then being like, okay, well, I'm just going to write it myself and then we can create it. And I really enjoy the process of creating something, producing something, and, you know, it meaning something to people. Mind you, the Nobody Likes Camping film obviously is a bit disgusting, and I don't know how throwing up in a tent could mean something to people, but it's just, you know, one of those things that I wanted to create. And I think creating for me is important because it gives me power, and that's what it has always done, is when I produce and create scripts, and whether it be like a web series or a short film, it gives me the power to just continue working without the need for someone to say yes to my audition. Yes. And that, you know, is incredibly empowering as a creative. So I think I will continue to think that I'm not a writer, but I will also continue to write work and create and have all of these facets. I think that's very much who I am as a person. And you can see that in the fact that I'm also a podcaster. Yeah. And I can see that in the people that I spend a lot of my time with as well. And I think it's important because these multiple things can all bring you joy, and potentially can also bring you finance, can pay you. So rather than looking, you know, oh, I just want acting to pay me, why not open up, if it is something that you want to do, why not open up other avenues for money to come in and for, you know, notoriety to come in, that sort of thing. So yeah.
How did you find the process of, because you wrote was it Behind Closed Doors?
So yeah, Behind Closed Doors was the short film that I did before Nobody Likes Camping. Yeah.
In both and right?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So find the process of like writing something to then filming it to then having it edited and seeing it come together was what you wrote or written? Is it getting my tenses mixed up? You had written.
Yeah.
Versus what was the final product, what you envisaged?
So it's interesting when I write things because I have worked with some people in the past that write things, and then when we go to film them, they are very strict on it being like, no, you're saying that line wrong. It's meant to be said like this.
Yeah.
Or I've had instances where I was producing a web series and like a joke wasn't landing and I brought that up, and the writer was like, no, where it's meant to be said like that. It's funny. And I'm going, it's not funny though. We're standing here and no one's laughing. So I think that really influenced the way that I wrote, which is very much like I bring a script to the table and I say to the other actors and I say to the director, this is very much something to just work off of. Like if you have a better line here, say it and let's see if it works, because I would rather, have a collaborative set and a collaborative project where we can make it the best thing it is, rather than me being like, no, my script says this, so we have to do it like that. So very much with Behind Closed Doors and Nobody Likes Camping, they were both written, and then on the days of, things moved in ways in which some things got changed, but definitely for the better in both situations. And for Nobody Likes Camping, especially with Neil, who's the other person in it, he's very much like an improviser, which is great. So, in that situation, you go, why would you not let him use that tool that he has? Yeah. And me as well, I love improvising. So, I think it would ruin the project if I was like, no, the script says this and it needs to be done this way. So yeah, Nobody Likes Camping definitely turned out better than I expected, because it was a really bizarre idea and it was just something that I'd kind of like written on a whim. And then we got Neil and that was great. So yeah, I think that's the way that I work, with being collaborative and allowing people to do their job in the best way that they can. I'm lucky that I haven't been in situations where we've gone to shoot something and someone's like, oh, I think this works better, when it doesn't. And you have to be like, no, that's a shit idea. So yeah, I think I'm just very lucky with the people that I work with, in that I want to work with people that I know have certain tools that they can bring to the table. And definitely, I think I write scripts that allow for wiggle room.
Yeah, cool. I've written and shot a short film myself once, but it all went so terribly wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really good idea. No, it was a good idea, but the person that I had attempted to direct it at the same time as well. In it. And that wasn't necessarily the issue, but the person that I had film it was very controlling in the way they were filming, and was rushing everybody through everything, which made it very difficult. And then in the end, when I got all the footage back, I was like, yeah, there's a bunch of wires in shot. What is going on? So yeah, it was it was an interesting experience. So I know what not to do next time.
Yeah, definitely. I think those experiences are just as good as making a good short film, because now you know that wires can't be in shot and that you shouldn't work with people that you get the feeling that they're a bit controlling. So it's all good.
Every opportunity to learn is an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
So did Did you submit your films to film festivals or anything like that, or was it more of a creation to create?
So what ended up happening was we actually shot it in 2019. So it was a while ago. And then the intention was to edit the film and then have it ready to go for last year's film festival run. But of course, and like I hate talking about COVID all the time, but COVID happened. And so all the festivals that we had listed as that we wanted to apply for, because I think it's important to find like what ones actually suit the film rather than just applying for every single one you can ever. So we had a list that we wanted to apply for, and they were either cancelled or they were accepting a smaller number of films, or things had just gone wrong. And we found that the ones that we did apply for were just not accepting the film. And you can kind of see why when you watch the film. You can go and see it on YouTube. It is a comedy, which is like, it does, people either love it or they don't, because thank you. It's a bit disgusting. It's a bit like, and so we found that festivals were just not wanting to show that style of comedy, which is totally fine. And so the director and I kind of made the decision, half out of exhaustion and half out of wanting to show our work, that we would just go, you know what, let's just scrap the whole film festival idea and let's just put it on YouTube so people can actually see it. And that was great, because then I ended up being able to send it individually to casting directors that I had their emails from either the podcast or from just finding them online. And I got some responses back from them being like, this was a great short film. Like, it was disgusting, but it was great. So yeah, that, I think that kind of fulfilled the need for me for it to be something. Like, if I was able to get some casting directors to watch it, great. And then I didn't really need it to be in a festival for it to be anything. So and certainly not in festivals. Like, I have a bit of a thing about, you know, how there's like a bunch of very small film festivals. And so I think some people feel the need to put their film into anything and everything just to say, oh, it's in this film festival. And I'm like, I've never heard of that before. And I didn't want to do that. So I just thought, let's just put it on YouTube. And people have watched it and it's great. And I think that fulfills what I wanted for the film anyways. So yeah.
I mean, going back to what we said at the beginning, I assume you found joy in being on set and doing what you love, regardless of what the film becomes. It's you doing what you love. Yeah,
definitely. It was that, and it fulfilled that. And so that's a tick for that film.
Well, we've just ticked over an hour, so I might let you go. I'm sure you've got plenty to get on with.
I have some preparing to do for my coaching next week. So yes, but I hope I said something of note that
I think a lot of the stuff around the agent and freelancing stuff is really interesting and really important for a lot of people to hear, because I even have, like, I have friends who have agents that are constantly like, I don't think they're doing anything. I haven't had an audition.
Leave.
Like, why? We'll just get out. Yeah. But I think the whole freelancing thing is a bit scary. And I didn't know that if you were a freelancer, that you would automatically get the emails that your agent would get.
Yeah, there's definitely like ones that as a casting director, you would see on the board that like I can't, but at the very least, all of the ad auditions and stuff, and you know, even if you just have a profile on there and you're ignoring the emails, the fact that you've put your hair color and your age and what you look like, and you've got your reel on there, when say, I don't know, Neighbours is searching for, say, a blonde white guy, they're going to be like, oh, you come up in the list. So just because you do or don't have an agent doesn't really matter to them. It's more the reel. And if your style suits what they're going for. Like, yes, when you're doing contracts and stuff and organizing auditions, having an agent is great because they can go through that. But if they really want you, if they see your reel and they're like, oh my God, he's perfect, they're still going to be able to reach out to you. So,
well, good thing for everybody to know. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it.
no worries at all. Thank you so much for having me.